This is Marty Tank of the Airborne Flight Crew, and this is my review of the Zeppelin Elite. I had a chance to demo ride the Zeppelin Elite at Sea Otter before getting one of my own a couple weeks ago. Now that I've had a chance to ride it on a variety of trails, I'm ready to give it an honest opinion of how it performs. I've ridden it on fast, smooth, and flowing single track, rocky, roughed-in trails, challenging and technical single track, as well as tight single track with lots of climbing. For the purpose of this review, I've kept most of the bike as is, with a few exceptions like the handlebars and grips. I'll start out with the things that I did like about the bike. With X.7 shifters and an X.9 rear derailleur, shifting is spot on and hassle-free, and at this price point is a very good value. The drivetrain is rounded out with an FSA Alpha Drive crankset with a square taper bottom bracket and KMC chain with a missing link. There's nothing exceptional about the performance of this crankset, and the square taper bottom bracket certainly isn't cutting edge, but it gets the job done. Having a missing link on the chain is always handy for easy chain removal and installation, which makes cleaning the drivetrain that much easier. While it's great to have a well-performing drivetrain to make sure that your power is being put to good use, being able to stop is nice too. And while the Zeppelin's Tektro hydraulic disc brakes are not the lightest on the market, brake feel and modulation is actually very good. The fact that you can adjust the reach on the brakes is certainly an added bonus, not always found on brakes that outprice the Tektros. They're not the strongest brakes out there, but with a little added muscle, they get the job done. After demoing the Zeppelin Elite at Sea Otter, I was not particularly impressed with the RockShox Bar 2.1 as a rear shock. Since playing with the settings and dialing it in, I'm changing my tune. While it's not a high-end shock, it does a fine job of soaking up everything the trail has to offer. It eats up rock gardens, drops, and technical terrain features, both natural and man-made, and it keeps asking for more. There does, however, seem to be some play in the bushings from the shock. I'm currently working with RockShox on a solution for this issue, and hopefully we'll come up with something that'll correct it soon. Another thing I wasn't really impressed with while demoing the bike in California were the tires. After riding them on my local trails, again, I have to say I am impressed. They're much stickier on dirt than they are on hard-packed sand of Monterey, California. The more I ride the Kenda Kinetics, the more confident I feel about pushing the bike into corners, which ultimately leads to a faster and more enjoyable ride. Do not underestimate the importance of a comfortable seat. After using the WTB Pure V saddle in a 24-hour race, I have to say it's the most comfortable saddle I've ever used, and it's a great added bonus on the Zeppelin Elite. Now for some of the things that I didn't like as much about the bike. Overall, the Zeppelin is on the heavy side, and I think the main culprit is the wheel set. Upon removing the bike from the box, the first thing that I noticed was how heavy the rear wheel was. This takes a toll when it comes to climbing and accelerating. However, it is something that you do grow accustomed to after a few rides. I'm also not very excited about the RockShox Tora 289 fork with U-turn on the Zeppelin. It's not that I don't like the performance of the fork, it's more that the features are not suited for how and where I ride. The U-turn feature on the Tora is not very helpful for me, as I don't often have the opportunity to use it. I don't like stopping just to change the travel on my fork, and trying to turn the adjusting knob while riding over rough terrain is nearly impossible. This may be a good feature to have when there's sustained uphills and downhills, but since I primarily ride on large deposits left behind by glaciers known as kettles and moraines, where I'm constantly changing from riding up to riding down, I would constantly be stopping just to adjust the travel. The bottom line is, for me, the U-turn feature is not helpful. Other than that, the user of the fork is limited to a rebound adjustment. And of course the Tora, being more on the entry-level side, is a bit on the heavy side. The other quibble I have about this bike is the high and low limit screws on the front derailleur. The screws are in such a place that reaching them with a screwdriver to make adjustments is practically impossible without taking apart the suspension linkages. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with the performance of the bike. I feel like I can really get into a flow on the bike, and it just eats up everything the trail has to offer. Overall, In this price range, the bike is a solid performer and worth considering. Be on the lookout for a series of follow-on reviews as I make specific component upgrades.